I find myself, whether it's, my own personal prayer or when I'm meeting with people in appointments, I return over and over again back to kind of like the starting point of the fact that we're created for love, like to be loved and to receive love. We're created by love, right? God. And, so like even like just having that as the starting point, like even like hearing things and like watching things on the news and like your mind, or my mind can go like think of, man, like how is this, this craziness here? The starting point is always love, right? That this person or this person is created for love, to be loved, to love others. And oftentimes, right, we act out of the spot, either being wounded from lack of love, but we're acting from the spot of to be loved and to love others. So like that is just, I'm returning back to that over and over again of like just this being the starting spot, that it's the core of everything. It's what we're made for. It's what we desire. It's what we want, to be loved and to love others. And see here, in the final discourse, the Last Supper, John 15 now, continuing from yesterday's reading, he turns to the disciples and he says, as the Father loves me, so I love you. So the Trinitarian love, which is from the beginning, precedes the beginning of time, God who always was, always is, and always will be, that love that he has with the Son that spirates a third person, the Trinity, the Holy Spirit, he's saying that love, as the Father loves me, I also love you. And then he's just saying, remain in that spot. Remain in my love. And the fruit of that, as he says the 2 verses later, the fruit of love is what? Joy. The fruit of love is joy. And he says, I told you this so that my joy might be in you and your joy might be complete. And so, in other words, the implication here is joy will be in us as long as we remain in him. Okay, well, what's the next move? How do we remain in him? Well, he says, if you keep my commandments, you remain in my love, just as I've kept my Father's commandments and remain in his love. And so to the extent, maybe even we say this, to the extent that we're not joyful, is the extent we're not conforming our will to the Father's will. To the extent that we're not following his commandments. And, I was reading something Pope Benedict wrote yesterday, or he didn't write it yesterday, I was reading it yesterday, and he was talking about the danger of the denial of our creatureliness. As soon as we deny our creatureliness, it just opens the floodgates to misery. Right? Because why? So the movement towards self-autonomy, us creating ourselves, us creating the framework in which to live, that I can create the framework to live in, that's putting ourselves as the creature. So Benedict's it's right on. It's right on to the movement that Adam and Eve made in the garden. The minute you and I deny our creatureliness, we take upon the framework of reality upon ourselves. But here's the problem. There's a framework of reality of which the divine and God makes, that is set. There's this framework of reality, and it's God's commandments. And so as we veer off of that, either in our own lives or as a society, we don't remain in his love. And if we don't remain in his love, Jesus says we don't have joy, and it's not complete. And so maybe even just for us today, an assessment as we turn to the Eucharist, an assessment is to look at our interior joy. And per Jesus's words here in the final discourse, as we do an assessment of the joy, abandonment of God's will and his commands right, is directly tied to a lack of joy. And so we want to remain in his love, and we can remain in his love. And we have an opportunity to unite ourselves here and to receive him, to enter into communion with him here, with receiving the Eucharist, and to give him thanks. The fact that he shares the Father's love with us in the movement to remain in him.